Hello, this is Mr. Reinhardt, and I'd like to introduce another English student of mine. Her name is Mary. She's from Xi'an, China. I think she lives in Beijing, and she's studying her master's degree at an Australian university, but because of coronavirus, she's not been able to go to the school in Australia. So actually, she's studying from her apartment in Beijing, China. But anyway, she's from China. She's from Xi'an, China, and she's going to tell us a little bit about modern China, what it's like, some of the challenges that young people in their 20s are facing. So I hope you enjoy her presentation. Her and I both have put a lot of work into this.
Hello guys, it's Mary from China, and today I'm gonna introduce you something about my homeland. First, when I mentioned China, first things popped into your mind maybe like Tai Chi, Peking opera, Chinese traditional medicine, or the most famous one, Spring Festival. But I'm trying to introduce something new to you about um, my homeland, and I think that's more relevant to our young people's daily life. And before we start, I might mention something else that because it's my second language and I'm not very fluent in it, so maybe there will be some mistakes in grammar or vocabulary. I hope you guys don't mind. And another thing is, I'm trying to to show these slides in a more real way. So I will try to show the content with my own photos, and if I don't get the photos took by my own, I will show you some photos which I searched online. So let's start it. I will introduce those cities roughly according to the size of the city. So we're gonna start with Tier 1 cities represented by Beijing, Shanghai, and other cities. And today I will introduce you Beijing and Shanghai. So first we can see that the capital of China, Beijing, lies in the north on the map. And when mentioned Beijing, the most famous one is probably the Great Wall, which is it wonders in the world. And you can see those photos we took in 2019 when my friends we take a short tour to the Great Wall. It's in the autumn, and the scene was really beautiful. And the second one is the Forbidden City. Forbidden City is it's famous for its treasures, housing it from Ming and Qing dynasty. Unfortunately, I don't have any photo of it in my phones, but it's really beautiful when it snows in Beijing. So you can see the white snow, the red buildings. They contrast in a very beautiful style. And the third one is the Temple of Heaven. It was the place where ancient emperors made sacrifice and prayed for a good weather. It's near where I'm living now. The right one is the photo I took in the Spring Festival holiday this year, and something modern. The CBD area in Beijing. It's represented by the famous CCTV tower, but the tower got a really hilarious nickname. It's called big underpants because it really looked like a big pants. And the next one is Soho. It was designed by Zaha Hadid. It's a very famous Middle Asian designer. And the right one is I took in I forgot, maybe in a summer day in 2019. So beautiful. Next is the IT industry in Beijing, because Beijing is the heart of Chinese internet industry. It's famous for like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, and other IT companies. The early Chinese internet companies almostly imitate, for example, like Xiaonei.com, it imitated Facebook, Sina Weibo imitated Twitter, but later they started to create some things such as Alipay, TikTok, and WeChat. And you can see on the two photos here, the left one, it's a carpool application, and the right one is a sharing bikes application. And next it's takeout industry. And last picture of it's the most famous two Taobao influencers in China, and they are doing live shows to sell goods. The left one, this female is called Via. So we can see that the e-commerce is really in a boom time in China. And I think that the IT industry is rocketing in China because it provides really handsome salary, which attracts like young generations from really good universities. And next one is Shanghai. The most famous location in Shanghai may be the Bund. The Bund was originally founded due to the foreign invasion of China. They divided an area in Shanghai for trade. So here you can see many banks, hotels, and churches. In the past, many new concepts have been introduced to China from here. And Shanghai is a place that blends Chinese and Western, ancient and modern. There are buildings of European industrial times and also modern parks of abstract style. And as you can see on the slides, there are many exhibitions in Shanghai. This is a map of the museum in a city, which are very dense. And there are also all kinds of coffee shops in this city where people like to meet, take photos, or even bring their computers here to work. And Shanghai's cultural industry and financial industry are very developed. The city is full of so-called literati. Many people think that young people in Shanghai are more fashionable because they love to dress up and enjoy a sophisticated lifestyle. But ironically, many also feel that Shanghai's cultural tolerance is relatively low. For example, like locals don't like outsiders, and although young people are fashionable, their interests and dress are relatively monotonous. Is a common thing. I won't judge it because I have been there in many years. So next up is Chengdu. Chengdu is famous among many foreign tourists. It's the most developed city in southwest China. You can see the scenery of Chengdu is very attractive. There are many rivers, bridges, and bamboos in the city. Also many pandas, of course, in the zoo. Chengdu is world famous for its hot pot. The food in Chengdu is extremely spicy. If you have a poor digestive system, you should avoid traveling here. I'm not kidding. People in Chengdu love to play mahjong, and ear massage are becoming kind of popular all over China. The pace of life here is relatively slow, so there is an old saying goes like, if you are young, you will never be in Sichuan, where is the province Chengdu located. Chengdu also has one of the top entertainment industries in China, such as film production, game production, and e-commerce. On the left side of the PowerPoint are some major game companies in Chengdu, such as Ubisoft, Tap for Fun, Tencent Games, and Timi. And there are many influencers and also LGBTQ communities in Chengdu. So no matter your appearance, you can live comfortably here. Okay, so here comes to my hometown, Xi'an. The tourism industry in Xi'an is very developed. Numerous tourist attractions have incubated many cultural and creative companies. Xi'an is probably most famous for its terracotta warriors, but as a local, I have never been there. Landmark of Xi'an is the bell tower in the city center, which is the city center literally. From this clock tower, four streets extend from east, west, north, and south. They forming the framework of Xi'an, and all the roads here are arranged in a grid. And Xi'an has a very long history and is most famous for being the capital of the Tang Dynasty. Here I've put some pictures of women's makeup in the Tang Dynasty. You may not used to it at first, but it may look pretty after a long time. The mouths are both very small, which is about the size of a cherry. But no matter what type of makeup they put up, there will always be a flower-shaped sticker in the middle of their forehead. And Xi'an was called the city that never sleeps because there are always many lights on at night. The picture shows a famous commercial street with antique shops on both sides of the road and ancient sculptures in the middle. There will be light shows here during festivals, like the one on the left. Xi'an is also a military industrial base in China. Aerospace, rockets, and civil aircrafts are both produced here. And finally, I want to talk about the snacks in Xi'an. The cuisine is mostly the Muslim cuisine, such as barbecue. And there are also many noodles, such as the most famous one, cold noodle, and the biang biang noodle. And they may look spicy, but in fact, they are a far cry from Chengdu's cuisine. Okay, in the third part, I will briefly talk about some border provinces I have been to, such as Heilongjiang, Hainan, Xinjiang in the west, and Yunnan on the border with Vietnam. So the first one is Kunming, which is the capital of Yunnan province. I really love visiting this area because it is in a low latitude with a high altitude. So you can see different scenery within one province, such as snow mountains, grasslands, rainforests, and terraced field. And traditional restaurants here love to put spices in their meals, which taste really like Thai food. And you can see these three pictures were taken during a trip I took last summer. The one in the upper right corner is the most famous lake in Yunnan, and along which are many ethnic minority settlements. Next up is Urumqi. I traveled here in 2017. I was quite afraid of a terrorist attack before I left, but when I got there, I realized that the city was extremely safe because there were a lot of police on patrol, and every shop had an alarm system. But I don't know much about politics, so I'll just talk about the scenery here. So you can see the column on the left is called the Devil City in the middle of the Xinjiang Basin, which looks like a lot like animals and human faces, right? It is formed by the weathering of rocks by the wind. And the middle bar is the Canas Mountains. These pictures were taken in the early morning, so you can see the forest turning yellow in autumn, the morning mist, and the sun shining on the snow-capped mountain tops. People say there is like Canada. I don't know, I've never been there. On the right is are two camels that ran into the road as we were driving. It's especially common to get blocked on Xinjiang's roads by animals, sometimes sheep and sometimes cattle. Yeah. So Harbin is the northernmost provincial capital in China, and there is an ice festival every year around New Year's Day. It looks a lot like Elsa's castle from Frozen, right? And the photo on the right is a city landmark, a Russian-style cathedral. There are many people of Russian descent living in Harbin. My friends from Harbin are generally tall, with high noses and big eyes. And the last one is Sanya. Sanya may be the most popular resort in China. There are too many people in there on holidays. Hotels in popular locations even need to be booked up to 2 months in advance. But although hotels are expensive, night markets in Sanya are reasonably priced, and they offer plenty of fresh seafood. Now that I finished talking about these cities, I want to talk about some overall issues in China. Basically, it's because of rapid economy and peer pressure. The young generations are under the great pressure nowadays. The first one I want to mention is the house price in Tier 1 cities are much similar as in New York or London. The property prices in these cities are extremely high, but young people's wages are low. So when young couples often need to turn to their parents or even grandparents to buy a house. and every family will save money for housing. So in China, real estate is a safe investment, and many people feel that buying a house is the only way to feel safe. It is interesting that the right to use a property in China is only 70 years, unlike in other countries where you can live permanently. But the government said that after 70 years, you can pay a sum of money, about tens of thousands, to continue to use another 7 decades. But since there have been no apartments in 70 years, so we need to wait to see what will happen. And therefore, many young people need to share apartment due to the great pressure of living in Tier 1 cities, or many of them have fled to other cities or their hometowns. So do some of my colleagues. And also, many women do not want to get married or have babies before the age of 30, because it will definitely affect their careers. So as the joke goes, 996 by day, ICU by night. It's kind of a work schedule in many industries in China nowadays. The 996 refers to that you go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and you go home at 9 o'clock in the evening. And you work permanently 6 days every week. So finally, you will end up in ICU. Although it's a joke, but there are several cases already happened in China, and we can see that many young people, they lost their life according to very severe working overtime. The high cost of buying a home and raising children leads to people having to work overtime. But overall, overtime is voluntary. You don't have to work overtime, but you get replaced by those who are willing to work overtime. So it's really scary. So in fact, many young people's mental health is not very good. So I guess that's why mental health has received more attention in recent years, especially in the post-COVID-19. And it is becoming a common thing for people to start psychological counseling or psychotherapy. Although the huge pressure, young people also have their own way to fighting back, to create their own entertainment. The first one is the variety shows. So there are a lot of shows on the internet. They have brought all kinds of stars. It seems that everyone nowadays is starstruck. So if you don't watch variety shows, you may have less common topics with other young people. And the second one is the film industry. It has grown by leaps and bounds, especially the domestic comics in particular. It has adapted ancient myths into new works. So the guy in the picture, they are the same character. He is called Naja. He was originally a god of fire, but in the films, he turns into a motorcycle boy living in Hong Kong. And the next slide is a film called White Snake. It is based on a Chinese love legend. I highly recommend it to you. Films are like very great movies. I like on the left one is Better Days. It deals with school bullying and juvenile delinquency. And the right one, The Wandering Earth, is a really successful sci-fi movie. It was written by a Hugo Award winner. And next is Switch and mobile games. Many of my friends work in the mobile games industry. I think it's universal for young people love playing games. But do remember you need to like control your time and energy on it, because it really distracts you from like work or learning when you prepare for a really important program or in a really important period of your study. And next is bubble tea mania. I think it's another universal issue all around the world. I know that the bubble tea was very popular in China now and also in Australia, but I don't know if it's in the United States. Due to young people, they don't like to have babies, but they really love to keep pets, cats, dogs, or little rats, or rabbits or pigs. Those two pictures here on the left is my sister's dog, and the right one is my cat when she's young. Next is gym, CrossFit training, and yoga. So many of young people, they also like work out and keep in a real good figure. And after the COVID-19, they just most of them turned online training. And probably the most famous influencer in China now is Pamela Reil from Germany. And next is pictures from Beijing's color run in 2018. Also, many of us have built interest in street dance these days. It's a picture I took several years ago when me and my colleagues were in a dance club, and I got two teachers in this club, and they both got another jobs in the weekdays as a doctor in the hospital, and then another one is a product manager in a IT company. But they can do both very well, and they give class on the weekends. I really admire them. I don't know how they manage that. And as for me, I like to go exhibitions on weekends. So here are also many exhibitions in Beijing. Those photos I took the recent 2 or 3 years. And finally, we also do training classes on weekends because, under the peer pressure, I think many of us may want to build their career or build a more solid grasp of their work and career during the weekend. And at the bottom one is an open lecture held by the Byte Dance. So they they invite some experts and influencers in the industries, and they will give some experience or stories into that field. I think it's useful. And finally, we reached to the bottom of the PowerPoint. I put a office meeting photo in the post-academic area, and I want to thank you guys for watching and bearing for such a long time. Just to remember to put your mask on and remember to wash your hands and stay safe in the post-COVID-19 area. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. So that was Mary's presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let your teacher know if you have any questions, and I'll get to Mary and see if she can help you out. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.